When was the last time a video game threw a boss at you that you were just really not prepared for or did not expect to see? And I'm not talking about like a boss that does like a really quick and cheeky move that you weren't expecting and it's like, oh darn, they interrupted my healing. Or not even necessarily, but could be possible. One of those middle of the battle form changes that, you were like, oh my, I didn't see that coming. But I mean something where like the boss's entire existence just really caught you off guard and just made you, you set down the controller because you probably lost to it. And you didn't rage, you didn't throw your controller against the wall because you expected to win, because you honestly didn't expect to win because you had no idea you were going to have to do this fight. I don't necessarily know that these events happen all the time in video games, but when they do, they really stick out to us. And for me, these bosses have created some of my most memorable video gaming experiences. So today, that's what we're here to do. We're going to be talking about 7 different video game bosses that we were absolutely not expecting. Now, while some of these bosses may have been unexpected, you know what's not unexpected? This portion will I tell you to make sure to comment down below on what video game bosses you didn't expect. You should also expect that I'm now going to say, hey, hit the like button and the subscribe button and the notification bell so you get notifications for new videos like this. If you enjoy this content and want to hang out live and chat about video games, you should come follow me on Twitch. I stream Saturdays, Mondays, and Thursdays at 7 p.m. Central Time, with Thursday being a community choice stream that you can vote on what game we play here on the community tab of this YouTube channel. All right, with that expected self-promotion out of the way, let's talk about some unexpected bosses within video games. For entry number 1, we're going to travel back to 1999, where almost everything in video games in 1999 was unexpected. I mean, video games still followed like, those normal rules where, you enter a giant room with a big opening and oh man, boss fight ahead. But a lot of video games back in, the 1990s and the early 2000s were largely unknown because they were not like games today where you could just hop on the internet and Google a guide one day after the video game released. Hogwarts Legacy came out, guess what? The next day I could Google the solution to a quest or puzzle. But back in the days of Pokemon Gold, Silver, and Crystal, you couldn't just hop on the internet and Google the solution to a problem in the game. Your best solution was hopefully your parents were benevolent enough to drive you to Walmart and buy that guidebook, that paper guidebook that you could get that had all of the trainers, all of the Pokemon, all of their locations. That was the only way you actually were prepared for everything in the game. Did you know you can only catch Lapras on Fridays in game days? Did you know there was a person of the week that had a different item for you that you could find? Unless you happened to randomly find these people in the game, you probably didn't know about those things. But I digress. We're here to talk about bosses that we were not expecting, and a boss that we certainly did not expect in Pokemon Gold, Silver, and Crystal was to fight the protagonist from Generation 1, Red, at the end of the game. Now, we weren't prepared for this for a couple of reasons. One, because that entire end game portion of the second generation of Pokemon games was brand new to us. We had the first generation where we played in the Kanto region, and the idea that they just added the Kanto region back into the end of Generation 2 was awesome. And I don't know that many of us expected that to happen, and so we didn't really know what to expect from the game after that. Much less expecting an optional boss just somewhere out in the end of the game, just hiding in the middle of nowhere in a cave. So stumbling across Red and coming to battle him was a really cool optional boss fight that we didn't really know was going to happen. But on top of that, he caught us off guard for another really good reason. That's going to be that the difficulty spike between fighting Blue, the last gym leader, and Red was a huge jump. Don't lie to me. Everyone tell me down in the comments, how unprepared were you when you went to go fight Red and you saw a level 81 Pikachu just hop out of the Pokeball? If you put it in perspective, the level jump between Blue to Ash is somewhere between 20 to 25 levels for each Pokemon. That was easily the biggest difficulty spike probably in any Pokemon game that had been made so far. But also, he was easily the most powerful trainer in any Pokemon game that had been made. You could beat the Elite Four with a few level 50 Pokemon, and that's really all you needed in both games. To beat Blue, you needed a couple of level 60 Pokemon. But if you're taking on Red, you need a really strong and diverse level 70 to 80 roster. Or, just one really good level 100 legendary Pokemon. But that boss fight with Red was just so memorable. The silent protagonist that just takes you on, and let's be honest, probably spanked us the first time we tried. That was one of my favorite video game experiences as a kid, and it definitely stuck with me as someone that I didn't expect, but I'm really glad that I had that experience. For entry number 2, we have a boss that I would be remiss if I did not include in this video, and I'm sorry if you're getting tired of hearing me talking about Elden Ring, but guess what? Add a counter, we're gonna talk about Elden Ring one more time. And this boss needs no introduction. He's on the channel. I fought him for about 5 hours, and that is going to be the Tree Sentinel. Now, the Tree Sentinel is on this list for a couple of reasons. One is to show that the entries on this list need not just be the hardest boss fights in the entire games we're talking about. The Tree Sentinel, once you know his tricks and his moveset, which is relatively limited, is not honestly that hard of a boss to beat. One of my friends played the game for about an hour. I told him some of those tricks, like, get on the shield side, sneak up on him, and you can hit him a couple times and stagger him. And within another like 20 minutes, he had the guy down to like 1/8 of his health left. So I don't mean to sell the Tree Sentinel as this big, bad, really impossible boss fight to beat, because he certainly isn't. I mean, yes, I did live stream for 4 hours, losing to him over 100 times, but that's mostly because I was bad and I didn't know the mechanics of the game. Hell, I didn't even know that you could do a power attack. But it's there because, especially if you're new to From Software games, what you didn't expect was to walk out into this beautiful open world and be greeted by a boss that was going to destroy you relatively quickly. The Tree Sentinel serves both as a wake-up call that, yes, you are playing a From Software game. This is not a joke. This is not for the faint of heart. But it also serves as a reminder that you need not take on every fight as soon as you find it. There is leveling up. There are ways to enhance your weapons. The Tree Sentinel is there to show you that you don't need to fight everything, rather than that everything in this game is going to be an insurmountable obstacle. That being said, many people like me did take it to be an insurmountable obstacle and also return the game. Don't worry, if you haven't seen the channel, I bought the game again. I've gone back. I love it now. But I certainly didn't expect, when I first stepped out into the lands between, to see this giant Tree Sentinel who looked so cool, and then proceed to see him decide, oh, I'm gonna murder your face. We should always expect bosses in From Software games, but maybe not within, say, the first 30 seconds. Okay, well, maybe that's not true, because in Bloodborne that happens as well. You get what I mean, though. You don't expect at the very beginning someone that's not intended to kill you. Okay, well, he's intended to kill you. You get what I mean. He is supposed to be a hard boss, but we didn't expect him to be, I don't know, standing right there. The Tree Sentinel is a phenomenal boss. I love him. It's a great introduction to the game. But man, did I personally not see him coming whenever I first started, and I was definitely unprepared for that fight. All right, entry number 3 is here to tell us that boss in video game need not be an individual, a person, a creature. It can also be a state of mind. In this case, the boss is still something that you have to overcome and is something that will beat you down until you basically want to cry yourself to sleep, but it's not an individual doing it. In this case, it is a level, and in this case, it is an optional level of Crash Bandicoot from the Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy, and that is going to be Stormy Ascent. Now, I know that many of you are thinking, this doesn't count, that's not a boss. But Stormy Ascent is arguably the hardest level in Crash Bandicoot. It's certainly harder than any other boss you have to fight in the game. And there's probably a reason that only 0.1% of players got the gold trophy for getting the platinum relic on Stormy Ascent. I personally finally managed to get the platinum relic on Stormy Ascent, and it took me about 4 days of consecutively working on Stormy Ascent. The map is just so difficult. And it's not even necessarily that it's hard. I mean, it is difficult, but it's so large, and there are so many different places where you can make a mistake. And there are so many really tight corners that you have to make really precise jumps on. Stormy Ascent is another thing that is on this channel that has made me stream, a good 5 or 6 hours. I think I put probably 30 hours into the game, never having completed a single level in Crash Bandicoot aside from Stormy Ascent to get the platinum relic. And then feel free to make fun of me. I was so excited when I did it that I went to hit the shift button and I hit the done button, and my initials aren't even recorded next to my time. But seriously, I don't think this game can prepare you for Stormy Ascent. I don't care how good you are and how many platinum relics you have for the rest of the game. Stormy Ascent is just a beast all on its own. And it really is a challenge that no one's really prepared for. I would also classify it as a boss because it's another one of those levels that is just insurmountable. It makes you want to throw your controller against the wall or bang your head against the table. Maybe I said those things backwards, oh well. But in any case, that reward, that feeling of euphoria when you finally make it to the end of Stormy Ascent is massive. And if you were one of those people that for this level seemed insurmountable, you made it to the top of the tower, you saw the finish line, it was on the cusp, it was within the palm of your hand, and then you missed the final jump and fell in between, I'm sorry. I don't know what to say to you. You probably never finished the game. In fact, if you had a physical copy of the disc, if you broke it, there is no judgment. My heart goes out to you, and I hope that someday your mental health will recover. But Stormy Ascent, I would classify as a boss in spirit, if not in the literal meaning, and it's one that at least I certainly was not prepared for. For entry number 4, we're going to move on to Undertale, and I know that if you've played Undertale, you are thinking right now who you know this entry is going to be about. And to be honest, it was really close. I did almost choose, spoilers for the ending of Undertale, Sans to be the entry on this list. Sans is easily one of the most difficult video game bosses in all of video games. But like I said in a previous entry, we're not here just to talk about the hardest bosses. We're here to talk about bosses that caught us by surprise, that we were unprepared for. And to that end, I have to say that Flowey has to be the boss that I was not prepared for in Undertale. Now, I don't mean to say that I didn't see Flowey being a potential boss. I mean, clearly from the very beginning of the game, you grasp that Flowey is a maniacal, evil, well, flower, and you're probably gonna have some sort of a run-in with this little creature at some point in the game. What I did not expect was Mecha Godzilla version of Flowey that you have to fight at the end of the neutral ending. I very much questioned if I had ingested something and I was having some sort of wild hallucinations when I was fighting Flowey. The graphics were just substantially different from anything else you saw in the rest of the game. I died a few times, and I mean, I just sat there and was like, what the hell did I just see? It was also at like 3 a.m. when I was doing this, so that didn't help the matter either. But then adding on top of that, not only was Flowey in this form, something that was not expected, but the mechanics that Flowey used during that boss fight, saving the game and reloading the game against you. That is one of my favorite mechanics I have ever seen a boss have in a video game. The idea throughout the entire game that you saving and reloading is like a cheat code that you have that the video game does not possess. And Flowey saying, guess what? I can do the same thing to you. I control this game. I can choose to reload it just like you can. That is an awesome mechanic, and it's never been done before in video games that I'm aware of, and I was not expecting it, but I was so glad to see it. It was just such an awesome experience to fight Flowey and to experience that. So Flowey the Flower easily has to go on my list of video game bosses that I did not expect. Now, entry number 5 on our list is one that maybe you should have expected. You know, there are hints given to you throughout the game, but in Divinity Original Sin 2, when you make it to the end, yeah, we expected Brachus Rex. We expected Dallas. What we did not expect, or again, maybe we should have, is whenever you and your friend that you're playing with both choose to ascend to Divinity, the actual final boss is your best friend. Yes, I played Divinity Original Sin 2 all the way through with one of my friends, and we had a great time playing the game together. We both had completely OP teams, and it was a blast. We got to the end, we both decided to ascend to Divinity, and then we both were shocked, again, maybe we shouldn't have been, that we now had to fight each other because only one of us could truly ascend to Divinity, with only one of us able to become the Divine and each of us having a companion that supported us, that was loyal to us. It became myself and Sabile up against my friend Andy and his follower Losa. And unfortunately, my friend Andy was a necromancer, I was a ranger, and we couldn't do it. I did not have the firepower to be able to win that fight. And that's hard. You've worked with someone the entire game, you've cooperated throughout the entire game, and then the game throws that twist, that boss fight at the very end, where you have to fight your best friend. That was really hard, and I know that this is a very contentious topic. There are a lot of people that really hate this ending to Divinity Original Sin 2 because they didn't expect it, because they thought it was a garbage ending that you have to fight your friend. I honestly loved this. I thought that was a phenomenal twist to the game, but I have to say that whether you loved it or not, it was definitely a boss fight that I was not expecting. I thought Brachus Rex, Dallas, the end, and then we move on with our lives, we ascend, and that's the end of the game, but no, Divinity Original Sin 2, expect that you might, if you make the wrong choices, have to fight your best friend. For our penultimate entry on this list, we're going to have a boss that, once again, is not by any means the hardest boss that you have to fight in the game. But it is one that, if you're new-ish to the world of Final Fantasy, is a boss that can certainly catch you off guard, especially if you're not using your assess materia correctly and you know you're not really trying to prepare yourself. You're trying to run and gun and just hack and slash your way through the game. And that boss in Final Fantasy VII Remake is going to be the Hell House. Now, the Hell House is reasonably difficult, but is not that terribly hard. The hard part, though, is if you have an inexperienced Final Fantasy player like myself that is not super accustomed to all of the different elemental materia. The Hell House was a great experience for me and a great example of how unprepared I was for the rest of Final Fantasy VII Remake. The first thing that I was not prepared for that it taught me is, don't always have synergy materia attached to your main weapon, because if you did, like me, and you just had fire attached to Cloud's Buster Sword all the time, about 25% of the time in the battle, you were going to be healing the Hell House rather than actually dealing a damage. The next was always make sure to use your assess materia. I did not the first time I played it, and therefore, I got a little wrecked because I didn't realize about the changing elements. But here's another big one, and this is a me problem. This is not a Final Fantasy VII Remake problem, is that I grew up in the world of Pokemon. and I did not specifically grow up in the world of Final Fantasy. Why does that matter? Because in Final Fantasy, you have this element called air. Air to the Hell House is labeled as green, or its windows turn green whenever it is that element. If you were like me and you grew up on Pokemon, green means something very different. It means grass. Now, I know grass is not an element in Final Fantasy VII Remake, but sometimes whenever you're playing it that way all the time, like it sticks. Like it doesn't matter that common sense wasn't here. It was just like, green Hell House, that's grass. Use fire against it. No, except you don't use fire against it. You use electricity against it. But if you saw something green in Pokemon and you used electricity against it, that would be a really bad idea. So that lack of awareness about elemental properties really was a rude awakening for me when I fought the Hell House. After I understood these things, the Hell House was not a problem and I won the battle the next time I tried it. But I have to say that if you were not prepared, or if you're a newbie to Final Fantasy VII Remake or the Final Fantasy world in general, the Hell House may catch you by surprise as one of those bosses that you were not prepared for. Now for our final entry, we have a boss that it's interesting to say that we weren't prepared for them, because here's the thing. You should have been prepared for this boss. I mean, this character lives in an area called Secret Area 3. So like if you found it, it's probably because you had one of those guidebooks that told you, hey, there's a secret area after you beat the game. Not only does he live in Secret Area 3, but to traverse the secret area, you have to fight these weird statues on which you have to do certain moves, and to know these, you probably looked up a guide in one of the guidebooks. You then had to make it to Secret Area 3 and put 300 bug frags into the bug frag trader in order to have to fight Base GS. So this is all to say that this is a fight you should be prepared for whenever you met Base. However, in reality, I don't think many of us were. And now in the world of emulators, in the world of cheats, in the world of Googling things online, of course, everyone that goes to fight Base GS is now abundantly prepared for that battle. There are guides that tell you how to beat it. There are strategies on message boards all over the internet. But if you think once again back to 2002, those resources were not available unless you bought one of the guidebooks. And when you went to go meet Base GS, the difficulty spike, once again from someone like Serenade EXE or even Proto Man at the end of the game, that difficulty spike to fighting Base was huge. Base is out here just casualing using area of effect attacks that deal a good 300 damage to your health bar. Additionally, he has a 200 damage shield that if you did not come prepared for, you may just not be able to hit him at all. I know that there are plenty of battle chips that enable you to deal 200 damage, but a lot of the battle chips, at least the ones that I relied on, dealt 200 damage, over the course of the battle. Like Plant Man would be able to, deal damage in multiple hits that would accumulate to 200, but no, you needed a battle chip that one hit would deal 200 damage to get it down. Or, you needed the Giga chip Northwind, which, some of us weren't aware of its existence. I don't know, because I'm bad. But the life aura that Base had on top of his just absolutely devastating moveset and the rapidity with which he hit you with these merciless high damage attacks. If you tell me that back in 2002, when you first played this game and you beat this on the first try, and you weren't pause spamming, because yeah, it's really easy if you pause spam and you just know when you're gonna have to move to a different area, then I question maybe just a little bit of your honesty. Base GS, while he is in game, we should have prepared all of the program advances. We should have almost every single battle chip in the game. We should have a folder that can conquer anything, but still, even then, it's hard to be prepared for that level of difficulty spike with Base GS. All right, guys, so that's gonna do it for us. Those are 7 video game bosses, or bosses, in theory, that we were not prepared for in video games. Do you have any other bosses that you weren't prepared for? Let me know those down in the comments below. While you're down there commenting, once again, you should expect this. Make sure to hit the like button and the subscribe button and the notification bell so you get notifications for new videos like this. Make sure to follow me on Twitch. Remember that I stream on Saturdays, Mondays, and Thursdays at 7 p.m. Central Time. Thank you guys for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. We'll see you in another video.